This is an important slide for you to look at as we move forward to our stock market analysis. This tells you about how we engage in the markets and the type of analysis we have, and of course about you using the information that we provide and the important aspect of trade ownership. You must own your own trades. Again, you can get the full daily snapshot free for 1 week. If you're already subscribed to our Snapshot Lite, or you sign up right now for Snapshot Lite, you're going to automatically get our free week of the full version, no strings attached. We're just going to send you everything. In the S&P 500, NASDAQ, Russell 2000 includes our 2-hour daily and weekly charts. It features the proprietary weekly and daily analysis that I bring to our team to provide to you. So I'm the core of that analysis, and then our team reviews that, updates it, and then brings it to you. It highlights the daily important key levels, momentum conditions, price projections, and it's designed to support your trade planning and directional bias decisions. Well, how do you get that? Go to the top of askSlim.com, top right of the page. You can see that right up over there, and click on that. You'll be getting our free S&P 500 analysis every day in our Snapshot Lite. But for 1 week, we're going to give you everything in our daily snapshot with all 3 of those indexes. You're going to find it absolutely fantastic. All right, we're going to get into the stock market. Before we do that, a little brief information. Well, very little background news that moved the markets this week. Buyers are still well in command. No entry opportunities for the bulls at all. You just have to keep paying higher prices as the indexes keep edging to the upside. Earnings were widely mixed, and some big movers in there in the widely held. Lockheed Martin, IBM, GM, all down big. And D.R. Horton, Pulte Home, in those home builders, they showed some good earnings, and Northrop Grumman, and they were up big. So, of course, we've had now a good 1/3 or so of all of the earnings reports come out, and we're going to have a lot more of that going forward. Powell, he had a speech and said nothing about interest rates. He did take heat on the Fed remodeling job, as the president was there looking at it, and that was a very interesting clip if you watch that video. And volatility remains extremely low. It's 75 days since the S&P 500 closed lower by 1% or more. That is just an amazing statistic, and that, of course, does happen in these extremely bullish markets that we have right now, and that is going on soon. And that is going, I believe, going to come to a conclusion soon, and I'll show you why as we look forward in here. Stock indexes mostly up fractionally for the week. The S&P 500 up a little bit more than the other indexes, a little over 1% to the upside, but all 4 of the major indexes to the upside this week, and that's despite some big declines we saw in IBM, which hurt the Dow, but that didn't stop it from being up on the week. Let's get into the analysis here as we look at SPY. Now, for those of you that are interested in all of the indexes and all of the futures that we cover, metals, currencies, foods, energies, crypto. Arvi does just a brilliant job of bringing you the Future Speak show on Wednesdays, and he brings full analysis of the indexes. I'm only going to look at SPY today, but do become a level 2, 3, or 4 member, and you will be able to see that show. And of course, get all of our a level 2, 3, or 4 gets all of our charts in all different varieties. Our Futures Hub is just an amazing way to see all of our charts in static level. And of course, level 4 get the live charts to put up on the TOS platform. So we're going to take a look now as we look at SPY, multiple time frame analysis. So you all know, unless you're brand new, that we are cycle analysts. We're some of the few out there that look at cycle analysis, which is essentially looking at the repeating rhythms in the market, or the heartbeat in the market, as they say. And what we do is we analyze these rhythms, add in our own proprietary indicators that help us understand momentum, plus the key support areas. Also, we look at the shapes of the of the cycles, and they give us a lot of information. So I'm going to blow this up so you can see here looking at the weekly chart. Some very interesting things I'm going to show you on the daily chart. So what we have is a condition in here where we have a upward turn in momentum here back in April. And for those of you that follow me, some of you know that after this, I was looking for one more test of these levels, which didn't come. And then once we got the solid upturn over here, it looked clearly like that was not correct, and the market was going to be back in its rising phase. These rising phases that we see right over here on those cycles. So we have rising phases, we have peaking phases, we have declining phases, and we have the bottoming phases. And you can see in here that the shape of those actually is much different than what you see on the bottom, which is the ideal. The top is the actual. But you could see those rhythms as they come into the market. What's interesting here, very interesting, is that this rising phase in here is uncorrected. In other words, you would expect, I would expect, that there would be a minor pullback right in here somewhere. And usually that aligns with some synchronicity with the daily chart also. And that's why we have this faint little arrow in there that you could see, which just indicates that, well, we're looking for a little pullback, and then you could see up again to higher levels is really what the highest probability is. We'll take a look at the daily chart and you can see what that looks like. So the conditions here are bullish. They have remained bullish. I'll show you our market condition monitor, and you'll see that those are bullish. So even if we got a little pullback in here, which is highly likely because the market does do that naturally, and I'll show you two other times that are similar to this, then it's very likely that higher levels will come. That would be the minor rising phase in here joining up with this cycle, which is still rising until it tells us differently, and that brings higher levels out here into maybe September, October, before it again gets into a period where the risks grow again. So that's a look at the weekly. Now, if you want to learn about cycle analysis, go to our front page, askSlim.com, go to the workshops tab, watch the free videos there, take a look at what we supply there, and they'll tell you all about our workshop there on how to learn cycle analysis. So this is a very positive condition we're looking at. Let's take a look here at the daily. So this is just super interesting. As you can see, in here we have two of our momentum indicators, actually more than that. On the bottom we have our slim ribbon PO, and we have our option bias indicator. I'll tell you about those. So here where that market turned up in April, we see that this cycle had a positive configuration. We call that a positive translation because it's translating into very bullish rhythms that we see in there. And then you could see the slim ribbon provides support, which it often does. Slim ribbon's a free indicator. You can write to team@askSlim.com and they can tell you how to put that up in Thinkorswim. It's also available on TradingView, Wealth 365 charts, Tasty Trade. Our slim ribbon is on there for free on those platforms. Here you can see how the slim ribbon was giving you resistance here as the market was moving down. And here you can see how the slim ribbon PO tells you the conditions of the market and then gives you a little hint as to when it's going to resume in momentum, as you could see right over there, as it brilliantly did so each of those times. This is our OBI, our option bias indicator. And up at the top, as you see it right over here, that says keep your option positions biased to the long side. Until it turns orange, it doesn't really give us an indicator of any kind of reversal. It would be orange over here if it got to the extreme on the upside. And with the slow upside move, it's hard to get that. Here you had the bottom warning where it turned orange right over here and said, well, there's a warning that there's a bottom coming, and that certainly did happen. So these are fantastic indicators we have. These are level 4 indicators down here, as is the reversal scout right over here. But again, the slim ribbon is free. So let's look at the structures that we're looking at in here. Here you could see a negative structure right there, and that gave us a hint that the next rally would fail, as you see right over here, as it did. And then you have these positive structures where each one of these is a higher high, higher bottom, riding the slim ribbon up, and very positive looking translations and configurations there. Again, that's those are, out of the cycle analysis vernacular, and we have a glossary that you can learn if you take the cycle analysis workshop. So what we're looking at here is a couple of projections. This level right over here we'll just call this 640. This area over here, about 646, 648, is where these are projecting up, with a possibility up here to the 100% extension of 654. That would be this continuing to the upside. And you can see those structures in there. This vertical line is essentially the actual cycle low as it occurred. I'm sorry, this one moved over. That's right there. And this one is right there. I don't know, these jump. So that's where the actual ones, these are where the ideal ones would come. And you can see they're not far off as you look at that. Now, let's look at what a positive projection would look like in here. So I'm going to draw that in here for you, and you could see this is what it would look like if it were positive. If you had continued up, got up into these resistances, and somewhere over here, these two lines are showing you the time frame for the next corrective period. These corrective periods were basically sideways. We call those extreme right-hand translations. They're swamping. In other words, the upside momentum swamps the corrective period. It doesn't let it come down. And that's what we've had happen for 1, 2, 3, 4 cycles, and maybe into the 5th cycle. And if it was this, it would look like this. And then the weekly correction that we're looking for, that right over here, would be quite shallow, as you could see. This is the highest probability based on the sum of the evidence that we're looking at. Positive cycle structure, all momentum holds, all momentum stays positive. That's what the most positive and the highest probability is of what we're looking at. Now, that probability being the highest doesn't mean it's written in stone. There's another probability, and that would be where you have a negative scenario. And this is what that would look like. This is a lower probability. I'm just going to move this down here for you can see. This would then give you a negative cycle structure. In other words, this low, 618.05, which is the cycle low here, would break. And then you'd have a period in here where it corrected. So on the weekly chart, this correction would be a little steeper, but then after that was over with, we would likely begin to move up again. This is a lower probability. You would have to get negative. You would have a negative cycle structure, and support fails. You would start to get this turn red over here. This would turn neutral or red over here on the option bias indicator. You'd get these the reversal scout rolling over negative. It would pierce below the slim ribbon. All of those things would happen, and we would begin to get this readings on our market condition monitor, which I'll show you in just a few minutes. So this is the negative scenario. Let's look at something extremely interesting. You see, the 5th cycle often brings corrections. That would be similar to the period between October of 23 and April of 24, and then April of 24 to January of 25. So keep this picture in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th cycle gives you a correction, and that's in line with this minor cycle correction here on the weekly. Now let's just look back a little bit to these other dates that I'm looking at right over here. And what I want you to see is the situation where you had, let me just go a little bit further out in here. And here you could see in this period here that I discussed, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th cycle tried to rally and failed, broke below that level, and then gave you the correction. Of course, then after that, the market went up to higher levels, which if this were the formation, that would be what I would expect. Let's go back a little bit further in here for you to see this, and blow this up here, and look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That starts back over here, which is in October of 23 into this April of 24 period. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4 cycles riding up the slim ribbon, exactly the same, move up to a higher high, and then go into this correction right over here. And then move up again to higher levels. So this is the fifth cycle right over there that I showed you there that had that little correction in there. And over here again, this one over here, the fifth cycle, which again, riding up the slim ribbon and then correcting right over there, minor correction there. And then the same thing we're looking at right over here in this time frame where you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So while I say this is the lower probability, I'm showing you how the cycle structures would align. And then after that, you would then get this next period out over here where you had the upward movement after a minor correction right in here, and then creating that next cycle, moving up to higher levels. So that, of course, would make this a buying opportunity, and a buying opportunity we have not had for a long period of time, because we have, as I said in the beginning of the show, 75 days of a market that has not had a 1% decline or more. So here we are right here without those projections, and this is what we're looking at, where we have positive OBI, option bias indicator, positive slim ribbon PO, which gave you an upward resumption signal right over here, positive slim ribbon that you see with this bullish support that it's giving it, and then this line over here, the positive reversal scout. All of that will give us indications of change when that change does occur, and that actually is built into our market condition monitor, which I'm going to show you right now, where we can begin to get a jump on those readings when these things start to change. So this is how we bring all of the analysis together, where we can look at the various projections as the market then does speak to us with the things that we normally look at. Let's take a look here at our market conditions monitor. This is a proprietary application available to our level 3 and 4 members. And let's just look at what we have here. So I have this tuned into the trader mode. You can have trader or time frames. And I'm looking at short term right now. So those of you that are short term traders, you're looking at, something like 1 to 3 weeks out there, maybe a little longer. And if you were looking at less than that, we would call that a near-term trader. And I could dial that one in, and I'll show you in a moment. So if you look at the way the indexes look right now, you can see that, well, they are very bullish. SPY, QQQ, IWM, DIA. And this gives you the time frames in here for the components that are built into this for this particular trader type, which is short-term trader type. Now, if you wanted to know when this changed, I could go here and I could say, well, this is very bullish. I want to know when it goes neutral. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to close that. And what that's going to do is notify me on our application, desktop application, when that does turn neutral. So you could do that with these right over here. I want to know when they turn neutral, so I'm going to add those to all of these right now. Kind of wanted to save this for you to see as I do that. So, sorry. Trying to get that screen to move, and I I'm not getting it to move for some reason, so I have to examine that. Anyway, I want these all to tell me when they turn neutral, which would be a pretty good indication. You could do the same thing over here on the near term, and I have, see if I can move this out and get that bar to slide again. There we go. So if I do it on the near term, it's going to give me more indications in there. So you can see in here this bell that's set up right over there. Let me just go here, and I'm going to change this to slightly bearish right there. And I'm going to change this to neutral. So I'm going to have that tell me when it goes slightly bearish, and then tell me when it goes neutral. And I'm going to put that in for the same thing in the Dow, slightly bearish and neutral. And you see those bells came up right over there and I have it in Apple also. So the you can get these, it'll notify you and let you know when these things do change. So this is the conditions right now. We're looking at near term, and you could see IWM did turn neutral and the Dow did turn neutral, and that's for the traders that are shorter than short term, as we call that. The near term. Let's look at the intermediate right there as we look at these indexes, and you can see in here they're all bullish and very bullish, and these are for more of like a position trader when you look at that. So position traders, this is bullish. Short term, which is like 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 weeks, are very bullish. And you can see in the near term there's some deterioration going on. Looking at that. We can also, there's 350 plus symbols in here, so you can get an idea of what the, I'm keeping it on short-term trader mode, and I'm clicking on this, and I'm going to show you which are the very bullish top 10 and which are the very bearish, and you can see the spider and the QQQ, IWM, all showing up in the very bullish category short-term. Diamonds, sorry, there we go. VST, Wells Fargo, Schwab, Occidental, Bank of America, USO, that's the oil fund, wow. Qualcomm, all those very bullish, Datadog, and just great information. And if you want to know when they begin to deteriorate, you just click notify and let it tell you when that's happening. What an application this is. And let's look at the ones that are very bearish right here. Kimberly-Clark, Cigna Group. Yeah, the healthcares have had problems. Accenture, the Spider Insurance ETF. Wheat, Chubb, UNG, of course, natural gas has been very weak. Intuitive Surgical, and Marsh McLennan, Lululemon, Costco. Wow, Costco has now turned very bearish. I didn't really realize that, so that is interesting. So what a great tool in here for you to see how you can get information and notified under the Market Condition Monitor. And just a great look at how the very bullish short-term conditions still remain here in the stock market as we look at that. Sign up for level 3 or 4, and you can then get this working and operating with our notification application on your computer, and then it will let you know when these changes do occur. So that's it for the stock market today. I hope you thought that information was extremely valuable. Like to present it in a way that you see all of the possibilities and what the highest probabilities are. And I think I presented that to you. If you have any questions, write to team@askSlim.com.